Janitya Lila Om Krishna Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashachala Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Pandacharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Govardhana Chamakund Radha Kund Giriraj Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Mathura Dhamma Ki Jai Mayapur Navadvip Dhamma Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dhamma Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Shri Harinama Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai Cow Protection Ki Jai New Govardhana Farm Community Ki Jai Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnati Verantasya Kananjaya Shaka Chakshu Antavya Tasmai Shri Thank you, Shri Rancha Kalpatarukas Chana Kripasa Today, we continue Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 17, and I give a short class on this, and I read the life of Madhvacharya. Today is the appearance of Madhvacharya, which is a very, very important subject for the Vaishnava students. And I'm going to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita a couple of pages by Srila Prabhupada about the description, brief description of his life. Actually, there's much more detail, and Srila Prabhupada even suggested that if anyone wants to know the pastimes, appearance and disappearance of Madhvacharya, Sri Madhvacharya, he can read Madhva Vijay, which is a very extensive description of his life by one of his disciples and his son, Narayana Acharya, who was a very devoted personality to Madhvacharya. He compounded this, he recorded everything in detail. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself advised as follows, and Jiva Goswami heavily borrowed information for Sat Sandarbhas for his work on Madhvacharya's life from Madhva Vijay, which is a very beautiful, I would like to read one day the whole thing. Nevertheless, Srila Prabhupada summarizes and briefing his life in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adya Lila, chapter 9, between 245, back text 245, and a few more verses coming, just explain the answer. So let me read this verse today. Thank you. Madhvacharya ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Adhyarhaniyasanam astitam param. Adhyarhaniyasanam astitam param. Vitam chatu sodasha panchas Saktivihi Vitam Chadu Sodasha Pancha Saktivihi Yuktam Bhaga Svariratra Chaduravai Yuktam Bhaga Svar Itaratra Chadruvai Svaeva Dhaman Ramamanam Ishvaram Arharaniyasanam Astitam Param Vritam Chatu Sodasha Pancha Saktivihi Yuktam Bhaga Svarira Itaratra Chaduruvai Svaeva Dhamanam Ramamanam Ishvaram Adarhani Sayanam Asitam Param Vritam Chatu Sodasha Pancha Shaktivihi Yuktam Bhaga Svar Itaratra Chadruvai Svaeva Dhamanam Brahman Ishvaram
Vitam Chatu Sodasha Pancha Shaktivihi Yuktam Bhaga Svariratra Chadruvai Svaeva Dhaman Ramamanam Ishvaram Adhyarhaniyasanam Astitam Param Vitam Chatu Sodasha Pancha Shaktivihi Yuktam Bhaga Svariratra Chadruvai Svaeva Dhamanam Ramamanam Ishvaram
Adhyarhaniyasanam Astitam Param Vitam Chatu Sodasha Pancha Shaktivihi Yuktam Bhaga Svariratra Chadruvai Svaeva Dhamanam Ramamanam Ishvaram
Adarhaniya greatly worshipable Asanam throne Astitam seated on it Param the supreme Vritam surrounded by Chatu four namely Prakriti, Purusha, Mahat and Ego Shodasha the 16 Pancha the 5 Shaktivihi by the energies Yuktam empowered with Bhagai is opulences Swai personal Itaratra other minor prowesses Cha also Adruvai temporary Sve Eva certainly Dhamman abode Ramamanam enjoying Ishwaram the Supreme Lord Translation and purport by His Divine Grace and His Divine Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord was seated on His throne and was surrounded by different energies like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences. along with other insignificant energies of temporary character. But he was the factual Supreme Lord, enjoying his own abode. Please repeat. The Lord was seated on his throne, and was surrounded by different energies, like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of temporary character. But he was the factual Supreme Lord, enjoying his own abode. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord is naturally endowed with his 6 opulences. Specifically, he is the richest, he is the most powerful, he is the most famous, he is the most beautiful, he is the greatest in knowledge, and he is the greatest renouncer as well. And for his material creative energies, he is served by 4, namely the principles of Prakriti, Purusha, Mahat Tattva, and ego. He is also served by the 16, namely the 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, and sky. The 5 perceptive sense organs, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. And the 5 working sense organs, the hand, the leg, the stomach, the evacuation outlet, and the genitals, and the mind. The 5 includes the sense objects, namely form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. All these 25 items serve the Lord in the material creation, and all of them are personally present to serve the Lord. The insignificant opulences numbering 8, the Siddhis, attained by yogis for temporary overlordship, are also under his control. But he is naturally full with all such powers without any effort, and therefore he is the Supreme Lord. The living being, by severe penance and performance of godly exercises, can temporarily attain some wonderful power, but that does not make him the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, by his own potency, is unlimitedly more powerful than any yogi. He is unlimitedly more learned than any jnani. He is unlimitedly richer than any wealthy person. He is unlimitedly more beautiful than any beautiful living being. And he is unlimitedly more charitable than any philanthropist. He is above all. No one is equal to or greater than him. Nor can anyone reach his level of perfection in any of the above powers by any amount of penance or yogic demonstrations. The yogis are dependent on his mercy. Out of his immensely charitable disposition, he can award some temporary powers to the yogis because of the yogis hankering after them. But to his unalloyed devotees who do not want anything from the Lord save and except his transcendental service, the Lord is so pleased that he gives himself in exchange for unalloyed service. I'll read the verse again. The Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of temporary character. But he was the factual Supreme Lord, enjoying his own abode. clear description of some of the technical details. Krishna's energy is broken down to certain items. Srila Prabhupada says 25 items, and they all have their groups, the working sense organs, the perceptive sense organs, and the mind, of course, is in a subtle form, and the sense objects, namely form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. All these 25 items serve the Lord in the material creation, and all of them are personally present to serve the Lord. So this is a very interesting statement by Srila Prabhupada, which is alone a great topic, that in this creation, everything is to serve Krishna and facilitate his cosmic manifestation, not to speak of his divine pastimes. We can see that the total cause of this total cosmic manifestation called Mahatattva, Prakriti, Purusha, the ego, these are the fundamental creations. So the living entities, by the will of the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate seed-giving Father, they came to this material world to experience a journey in this material world. Obviously, Krishna has a plan for all living entities. These are seed-giving Father and the best well-wisher and the best friend of all living entities. So everything in this universe, whether it's animate or inanimate, sentient or non-sentient, is meant to serve the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is the ultimate Purusha, and his energy is particularly nature, his Prakriti, and the living entities, and the ego, which came out of Mahatattva. Mahatattva is the cause of the three modes of material nature also, which all work together. So to have this ego, the identification with matter of the living entities, it all connected to Mahatattva. But ultimately, Mahatattva is not the cause of the living entities coming to this material dimension. It is their rebellious nature. So Krishna facilitates, and he's created this cosmic manifestation. He is the ultimate cause of it in that sense. Ishvara Paramaha Krishnaha. Paramaha Ishvaraha, Supreme Controller. Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. He facilitates everything. Nothing happens without his supreme will and sanction. And so, living entities acting under the influence of false ego, under the modes of material nature. Therefore, it is very difficult for them to get out of this unless there's a powerful personality, a Shakyaveda avatar, a great Mahabhagavatam, a great Mahajanas, a great avatars come to deliver the living entities by their powerful message. And there's no other way. A very strong message and powerful personalities. We have to have a very competent and powerful teacher who can raise the consciousness of the living entities and come to their senses, to their original Nitya Swarupa position, and then engage in actual devotional service and save all this problem altogether. Nevertheless, the realizations come in different stages. And at some point, the realization becomes more refined. So one becomes a yogi, impersonalist, Brahmavadi, this Vadi, that Vadi, Mayavadi. They have some elements of goodness naturally because of their penances, but the desire to overload this nature is still there, very deep rooted in the heart. Only a powerful Bhagavata can uproot and plant the seed of devotion, bhakti, bhakti, picha, very deeply. And that will fructify on a daily basis by following the process of devotional service, given, prescribed by the great teachers. Sri Prahlad Maharaj, who was one of the greatest Mahajanas amongst the 12 Mahajanas, he gave the 9 limbs of devotional service. And one of the first things he mentioned, Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing, chanting, smaranam, remembrance. These are very powerful formulas. Constantly hear about Krishna, trying to analyze the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in the association of Vaishnavas, hearing from the spiritual master regularly, and offer service with full surrender, worshipping the Supreme Lord, residing in a holy place. All are recommended items in devotional service to awaken our real pure love, which is a very important subject matter which Madhvacharya will explain. So when one comes to his realization of his original Nitya Swarupa, actually Sudha, pure devotional service takes place. Rise is about the intellectual platform, the jnanic platform, and then one gives his whole life, heart and soul to the lotus feet of Krishna. In that case, Krishna himself was unattainable by the greatest yogis, greatest mystics. Krishna makes himself available to such a bhakta, such a devotee. Krishna himself, the supreme personality of Godhead, the most dear friend of all living entities, gives himself to that devotee. So this is the ultimate goal of the Vaishnavas. Very interesting in this context, because I'm going to read about Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya, he established the great Siddhanta of Vaishnavas. He had a great mission. And as we all know, from hearing from Srila Prabhupada and not to speak of Madhava Vijay, there's a lot of quotations from the Shastras, especially the followers of Madhvacharya, the traditional Madhavas. They very much rely on these extensive literatures. And Madhvacharya was a very powerful personality. He was an incarnation of Vayu, yes. Actually, Vayu has manifested in this universe in 3 forms, actually, in different times. He appeared as Hanuman. Hanuman is also known as the son of Vayu, Pavanputra, in Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. And he appeared as Bhimasena in Pandava's associates, brothers, so facilitated Krishna's pastimes. And he appeared in Kali Yuga as Sri Madhva Acharya, a very powerful personality, and he was preaching very strongly against Sankara's confusion of his teachings, because there was a natural progression of everything has a reason. as we all know, briefly, that the Brahmins in the beginning of Kali Yuga, they got very corrupted and they misunderstood some of the teachings of the Vedic rites, rituals. They could not fully understand the purpose behind them. Therefore, they misused and misunderstood, naturally became corrupted, and engaged in all kinds of unauthorized activities in the name of the Vedas, like animal sacrifices. Therefore, the Brahmins actually got contaminated by the age of Kali, the beginning of Kali. Therefore, Lord Buddha came in due course of time. Naturally, he wanted to divert the attention of the people in Bharat, temporarily distract them from the Vedic way, because the Brahmins misrepresented, misunderstood, and got corrupted. So Buddha was teaching atheism in a particular way. He was teaching non-violence, compassion, obviously Sattvic principles, but they were still atheists, unfortunately. Nevertheless, he managed to divert the attention of the public from the smarter Brahmanas, or the corrupted Brahmanas. So he had success. Nevertheless, this is still not the proper or correct understanding or realization. Therefore, Shankara came. Approximately Christian calendar, 795, in that period, he appeared. And he was an incarnation of Lord Shiva. He had no faults on his part. He had a mission again, to bring people back to the Vedic culture, some or other, some trick, some attraction. Obviously, to bring them back to a personal understanding of Godhead from an atheistic Buddhist foundation was not an easy thing. Therefore, he had a transitory philosophy. He was teaching the Brahmavada impersonalist concepts, which eventuated to Mayavada interpretations, unfortunately. Mayavada is an offense because they consider the form of the Lord as an illusion, Mayavada. So he had success again. He managed to get the attention of the people back to Vedic culture, the Vedic way. Nevertheless, Madhvacharya came. He came in Christian calendar 1245. He lived 80 years altogether. And he was establishing the proper Siddhanta. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu analyzed his teachings. He recommended himself the Madhava Vijaya of Narayana Acharya. And he actually agreed, because he actually went to Udupi. Udupi, where he was born, Madhvacharya, is a very, very holy place. It's on the southwestern side of India. And near the ocean. It's a very beautiful temple there, a very beautiful story behind those temples. Udupi Krishna is a very famous deity, self-manifested deity, which Madhvacharya personally installed. So Madhvacharya, who was actually an incarnation of Vayu, a very powerful personality. It's beyond our imagination. He comes acting as a human to re-establish Sanatana Dharma, to defeat the Jnanis, the yogis, interpretations of Mayavada. He was very powerful. And the followers of Sankaracharya, they were so fearful of him, avoiding him, trying to discredit Madhvacharya. trying to even do anything to stop his preaching, because at that time it was confrontational. His preaching was very confrontational because the Mayavada and Brahmavada was so kind of contaminated India. So someone comes out and preaches against this false Siddhantas and establishes the proper Siddhanta, proper philosophy. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a visit to Udupi Krishna, seeing a beautiful deity, Udupi Krishna. And he had a discussion with the Tattvavadis, who are actually philosophers. Tattvavadi means philosopher, a Vedic philosophy. They're Vaishnavas, but they're very conservative. And they had a particular way of understanding, because Madhvacharya was trying to establish the proper Siddhanta as it comes out from Lord Brahma. And why Madhvacharya is so important to us? Because they are the first teachers in our line. Lord Brahma received his transcendental knowledge from Lord Narayan, Lord Krishna himself. Of course, Lord Brahma, the greatest devotee in our universe, is the master architect of this cosmic manifestation here, under the order of Supreme Lord Narayan, Krishna himself. So Brahmaji then passed on the knowledge to Naradaji, then Vyasa, and Madhvacharya. So you can see how closely connected to each other. But because there was some damage by the Brahmavadis, followers of Sankaracharya, and the corruption of the Brahminical culture, fallen age of Kali, so he had to re-establish that proper Siddhantic understanding, how Brahma taught. The famous Brahma Samhita, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered later on. There's much more verses there actually, but he managed to save, I think 55 or something like verses for Brahma Samhita. Very, very clear about the ultimate destination, the position of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the most confidential pastimes of the Lord, the beautiful divine Lila, and Krishna himself, who he is. And obviously starts with the very first verse, which establishes Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Parama Ishvara, the cause of all causes. So Madhvacharya had a great success because of his power. And very interesting about his power, because being the son of Vayudev, yet physically very powerful also. Often he did miraculous activities. One of his sannyas disciples was attacked by a tiger, a very powerful Bengali tiger, and Madhvacharya just jumped, being Vayu, and separated the two and defeated the tiger by his bare hands. And the tiger behaved like a scared cat, pulled his tails under and ran off. Another time, when Madhvacharya was a child, we talk about being a child, because he actually took sannyas at the age of 12, which is even now a tradition amongst the Madhvas. Actually, I think the last Acharya, who just passed away not long ago, a couple of years ago, very powerful Acharya, who was a very friendly relationship with ISKCON Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, great respect for Srila Prabhupada. He was a very conservative Madhava. He obviously was the Acharya of the Sampradaya. And he was also received his sannyas very early, because these Brahmins were so trained right from childhood, Gurukula, tradition, conservatism, So they're very conservative Vaishnavas. And so when Madhvacharya in his childhood performed so many miraculous activities, extraordinary physical power. Often he was attacked, him and his disciples attacked by dacoits, robbers, thugs, and trying to attack them physically. And he defeated them all. He always protected his own disciples. And at one time, he decided to go touring India and preach the Siddhanta strongly, defeating all the Mayavada. He was very courageous, very powerful. And he went to see Vyasa twice. He went up to Badrinath, one of his assistants, sannyas disciple, and he took lessons from Vyasadeva personally. He was already a very powerful scholar, being a great empowered personality, obviously, but he accepted Vyasa as his spiritual master and refined his knowledge, refined his scholarship. So we went back down in South India. He was preaching so powerfully. So another time when he was again in his childhood, his father, who was a great devotee himself, he had some debts to pay and he was a very poor Brahmin. Generally the Brahmins, they're not so wealthy. This goes back to a long story of Lakshmiji cursed the Brahmins because of Bhrigu offense. So generally the Brahmins are not so wealthy. Not always the case, but they're generally often poverty stricken. Their wealth is the tapasya, the devotion to Krishna, the scholarship, moral goodness. They are the guardians of Vedic knowledge. So the Brahman was expected to be saintly in character, at least in the Vaishnava line. And so he wanted to help his father, because the father had so much debt, so much gold to pay back, and he couldn't. He was a poor man. So he asked for a handful of black human seeds. And by his hand, by his palm, he just crushed it. And gold coins came out of his hand. Just see his power. We talk about Asta Siddhis, mystic powers. So much gold came out. He paid his father's debt. Another time, there was a big merchant ship coming on the shore, in the west shore of India, ocean shore. And they had some trouble. They lost control. So Madhvacharya again helped physically by his strength, helping the people on the boat. And the people on the boat, the sailors, they were so impressed by his physical strength and determination. And he was always very helpful. Apparently he was very soft-spoken. Always had a gentle smile. He was a very gentle Brahmin, Madhvacharya, although physically very powerful. Especially Vayu, because you know Vayu, the prana, the 5 life airs, they're generally situated in the upper part of the body. And really, so Madhvacharya was very powerful in his upper portion of the body, muscly, physically strong. He could leap. You could see that he was like Hanuman also, because he could climb the Himalayas, rock walls, to search Gangotri, going further behind Gangotri and see Vyasadeva. He was so determined. So his disciples were fascinated, and of course for them Madhvacharya was like a Tarik avatar. Of course, his position, he was an avatar, Shaktyaveta avatar. He was the incarnation of Vayudeva. So the sailors wanted to reward him. how can we repay you with your help and save the boat and so much goodness? We had so much wealth on this boat, we could have lose everything. So Madhvacharya asked for Gopi Chandan Tilak from my holy land of Raj. So they gave me a big chunk. And by his mystic power, he cracked this Gopi Chandan, and as a beautiful deity came, appeared there. The beautiful deity. Even Prabhupada explains in the Chaitanya Charitamrita very detailed. Udupi Krishna, later known as Udupi Krishna. Sometimes they call it Gopal, Udupi Krishna, with a cowed stick, like he's a young cowboy, and he's holding some flower or laddu, and very beautiful, and some nice pictures of Udupi Krishna. You can find them online everywhere. Beautiful deity. So Madhvacharya asked his disciples to carry this deity to Udupi, and he's going to install. And no one could lift the deity. 30 men tried to lift the deity. So heavy. It was incredible. It was a self-manifested deity right in front of everyone. Came out of the Gopi Chandan Tilak. And so Madhvacharya just picked Udupi Krishna, the deity, just like one arm. And he personally took to Udupi and installed in a beautiful temple there to the present day. So many devotees, so many Vaishnavas all around India visiting this. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally visited Udupi Krishna. And he had a conversation with the Brahmanas. Very, very pleased with them, of course, because they were great devotees, disciples, the followers of Madhvacharya. And he suggested Madhava Vijaya, which is a very beautiful description of his Madhava's teachings, his life. In Srila Prabhupada, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the purport also explains that if anyone wants to know more about Madhvacharya's life, you can study Madhava Vijaya. There's many translations now, but these original books in Devanagari, obviously some translations by the Madhva followers. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a discussion with them, and basically from Siddhanta point of view, they all agreed. The Madhavas were basically Madhvacharya's teaching, essentially that the goal of life is to return to the spiritual world, to Vaikuntha, perfect one's life, follow the Vedic rules and regulations, particularly Vana, Ashram, and gradual progression. So it's all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed, yes, but then he commented, because he had a discussion with some of the prominent Brahmins, that actually we take it to another level. The actual purpose of life is to develop love, pure love, unalloyed devotion to Krishna. Whether in this life or the next life, that's the most important. Whether you're in the material world, whether you're back to our original Nitya Swarupa position, the purpose of life, the ultimate goal of life, is to develop that prema, the love of Krishna. So this is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took it further. And then, of course, there was another difference of opinion, although philosophically, again, there's no disagreement, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu obviously giving us the most powerful formula for this age, Yuga Dharma. He was emphasizing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, hearing and chanting. The orthodox, conservative Brahmins and Madhavas, they were very particular about ritualistic rites and temple worship, obviously Madhvacharya's particular teachings about pure Dvaita, which is basically means that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities, and separately, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's defeating the monistic so-called oneness misunderstanding. So he had a very particular way of preaching against the Maya. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took it further, always emphasizing hearing and chanting and understanding our true position and developing our love for Krishna. And this is how Srila Prabhupada concludes this purport, the Srimad Bhagavatam purport here, that his unalloyed devotees who do not want anything from the Lord save and accept his transcendental service. The Lord is so pleased that he gives himself in exchange for unalloyed service. So you can see this is the ultimate goal of a devotee, unalloyed. You can just meditate on this, take inspiration. It takes many lifetimes for most of us to really get up there into higher levels of consciousness, very pure consciousness. But nevertheless, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasizing that one should anxiously, eagerly work on this, develop that pure love for God, not waiting to just return to Vaikuntha. Now, right now, not wasting a moment, because this is the true purpose of life. This gives meaning to our lives as devotees. We have a goal here. We have a purpose here. So that is to develop love for Krishna. Udupi Krishna, Madhvacharya actually taught a very particular way of worshipping Udupi Krishna. The Madhvas, they were very particular about following rules and regulations. Famous about punctuality, everything is on time, high standard of cleanliness, very high standard. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very impressed. Very impressed. And he encouraged the conservatives, the Brahmins, who were strict followers of Madhvacharya, of course, to chant the holy names of Krishna, Shri Harinama Sankirtana. And Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu obviously establishing the ultimate solution for this day and age, Yuga Dharma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blessed the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. And we can see that all four Sampradayas, authentic, bona fide Sampradayas, they all have a very prominent Sampradaya Acharya. So Rudra Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami, Sanat Kumar Sampradaya, Nimbarka Swami, Lakshmi Sampradaya, Ramanuja, and Brahma Sampradaya, Madhva Acharya. They're very powerful teachers, and many of them actually Shakyaveda avatars, Mahajanas, and establishing the line powerfully. And Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided, agreed to take initiation in this Sampradaya. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took it further, as according to the discussion with the Brahmins, took it emphasizing the Yuga Dharma for this age. So the Madhva followers had been skeptical even to the latest times, recent times, because they're kind of very orthodox and not against the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but they can see that they're following a much more simplified version of bhakti. But the actual acharyas, the great saintly personalities, because they have great acharyas even to the present day, very powerful line actually. They all agree by Srila Prabhupada's teachings, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who also visited these places. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had a very good relationship with the Madhvas, the traditional Srila Prabhupada often very impressed by the temple worship, and he encouraged the sampradayas to let's work, let's unite under the flag of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because this is the only hope for this day and age, the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And great acharyas like Madhvacharya establishing the means for us, the line, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fortified it, made it very strong. So we are known as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, family of Vaishnava acharyas. And you see, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, great personalities already taking place, taking birth, like Madhavendra Puri, then Ishvara Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis, then gradually coming down Narottama Das Thakur, coming down Locham Das Thakur, all these great personalities, right down to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, and our Prabhupada, and now the sincere followers of Srila Prabhupada carry on responsibly the purity of our mission. So it is our responsibility, not just the leaders of this movement, but every individual devotee who has some sincere feeling and gratitude towards Srila Prabhupada, who's our father and grandfather for most of us. He is giving us the Divya Jnana, the transcendental knowledge, powerfully projected by Sri Madhvacharya. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refined it and take it to a higher level, emphasizing attaining Krishna prema in this life, not waiting for Vaikuntha or whatever. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us Rajabhumi Rasa. It is just a question of realization, it's a graduation of devotion, and one should be very patient and follow the process. I was listening to one lecture, Srila Prabhupada was saying that actually Krishna consciousness is very simple. And what is difficult is the determination. We have to pray for that strength, determination, so we not deviate, we just stay on the path with full attention and focus, with our heart and soul. So we follow the instructions of our teachers faithfully and patiently, and pray that we can remain in the service of great teachers, in the line of Brahma, Madhya, Gaudiya, Sampradaya, and humble students of Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Madhvacharya ki jai, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. We don't have no time for questions. Any question, you can come to the later. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Madhvacharya ki